The conference chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure built by civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Inside, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in anger. At the center of their fury was a single topic: humanity. The Zaranth ambassador slammed his clawed hand against the podium. His scales rippled with colors that showed his rage. He had lived for 300 years and never felt such disrespect from a lesser species. They arrived in our galaxy barely 50 years ago, he hissed to the assembled council. They stumbled upon faster-than-light travel like children finding their parents' tools. And now they dare to claim territories that we have controlled for millennia. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. The Krell representative clicked her mandibles in approval. The Viridian delegate's crystalline body pulsed with light. The Thalax envoy created small waves in his water-filled sphere. The Noraxis ambassador's cybernetic eye glowed brighter. On Earth, billions of miles away, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant. He watched the distant stars through the viewing screen and wondered if this would be his last mission. At 42 years old, he had seen enough war to know how this would end. The galaxy's great powers had made their decision, and Earth had made theirs. "Captain, we're receiving the official transmission from the Galactic Council," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. She was young, only 28, but Morrison trusted her completely. She had steady hands and a steady mind. "Put it through," Morrison replied. The screen flickered. The Zaranth ambassador appeared, his reptilian face filling the display. His words were clear and final. "Humanity will withdraw from all disputed territories within 72 hours. You will accept Galactic Council oversight of your future expansion. You will submit your military capabilities for inspection. If you refuse, we will teach you the price of arrogance. We have assembled a coalition fleet of 200 warships from 5 civilizations. You have 1 ship. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Morrison's crew looked at him, waiting for his response. Commander Kyle Harris, his first officer, stepped forward. "What are our orders from Earth, sir?" Kyle asked. Morrison pulled up the encrypted message from Earth's United Government. It was short. He read it aloud for his crew. "Show them what humanity can do." Amy Brooks turned in her chair. "Sir, 200 ships against 1? Even with our technology, the odds are impossible." Morrison smiled, but there was no humor in it. "They think we're primitives who got lucky with FTL travel. They think we'll surrender or run. They don't understand what makes humans different." He walked to the center of the bridge. His crew of 200 men and women watched him. They were scared. He could see it in their faces. But they were also ready. "The galaxy has been at peace for too long," Morrison continued. "These civilizations perfected their technology thousands of years ago. They stopped innovating. They stopped preparing for real war. They forgot what it means to fight for survival." Kyle nodded slowly, understanding dawning on his face. "But we never forgot." "Exactly. Earth has been fighting wars for our entire history. We've had 2 world wars. We've had countless conflicts. We learned to build weapons that can destroy worlds. When we reached the stars, we didn't stop preparing. While they sat in their comfortable council chambers, we were designing ships for one purpose: to win battles we shouldn't be able to win." Morrison pulled up a holographic display of the USS Valiant. The ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. "This ship carries technology they think is impossible," he said. "Quantum missiles that materialize inside enemy shields. Graviton cannons that bend space itself. Singularity torpedoes that create black holes. Reactive armor that learns and adapts. We built this ship because we knew this day would come." In the engineering section, Danny Chen ran final diagnostics on the weapon systems. Everything showed green. The chief engineer had worked on this ship for 5 years, installing experimental weapons that Earth's best scientists had developed in secret. The galaxy thought humanity was backward. That was their first mistake. On the sensor deck, Lieutenant Peter Grant studied the approaching alien fleet. He had spent years analyzing every species in the Council coalition. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their predictable patterns. The Zaranth always tried to intimidate before fighting. The Krell always committed everything to their swarm attacks. The Viridians trusted their shields too much. The Thalax loved their stealth technology. The Noraxis let their artificial intelligence make every decision. "Sir, the fleet is arriving," Peter reported. 217 ships, exactly as intelligence predicted. They're arranging themselves in a standard encirclement formation. Morrison watched the enemy ships take their positions around the USS Valiant. They formed a perfect sphere surrounding his single vessel. It was a formation designed to intimidate and overwhelm. It left no escape route. It was meant to make surrender the only logical choice. Beautiful, Morrison said softly. They're doing exactly what we expected. Amy Brooks checked her weapons console one more time. Every system was ready. She had grown up hearing stories about humanity's first contact with alien races. Most of those stories ended badly for humans. Pirates had killed entire colony ships. Alien traders had cheated Earth out of resources. Her own parents had died when raiders attacked their transport. She looked at Captain Morrison and felt a surge of fierce pride. Today, humanity would stop being the victim. The Zaranth flagship moved into position directly ahead of the Valiant. Its commander opened a channel. His face appeared on every screen. Human vessel, this is your final warning. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You have shown courage by coming here. But courage without wisdom is foolishness. Accept your place in the Galactic Order. Morrison waited. He counted the seconds. The Zaranth commander expected a response. He expected pleading or defiance. He expected the humans to follow the rules of civilized warfare. That was their second mistake. Morrison looked at his crew. 200 people who trusted him with their lives. 200 people representing 8 billion humans back on Earth. 200 people who would show the galaxy that humanity deserved respect. All weapons online, he ordered. Target every ship simultaneously. On my mark, fire everything. The Zaranth commander was still talking, listing terms of surrender, when Morrison gave the order that would change galactic history forever. Fire. 6 hours before the battle, Jake Morrison sat alone in his quarters. He held a small photograph, its edges worn from years of handling. The image showed a woman and 2 children, smiling at a beach on Earth. They had been dead for 15 years, killed when alien pirates attacked a civilian transport. Morrison had been a lieutenant then, powerless to save them. He had spent every day since that moment preparing for this one. Not for revenge, though that was part of it. For proof. Proof that humanity could stand among the stars as equals, not as victims. A knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he said. Amy Brooks entered, carrying a data pad. "Final weapons check complete, sir. Everything is ready. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Morrison set down the photograph. "I'm fine, are you?" She hesitated, then sat down across from him. "Honestly, I'm terrified, but I'm also excited. Does that make me crazy?" "No," Morrison said. "It makes you human. We're the only species in the galaxy that gets excited about fighting impossible odds. Every other civilization in that fleet out there sees war as a last resort. We see it as a challenge." "Is that a good thing?" Amy asked. Morrison thought about it. "I don't know. But it's kept us alive when nothing else would. Earth has been a death world since the beginning. Diseases, predators, natural disasters, and each other. We learned to fight or die. Every other species out there evolved on easier worlds. They developed technology slowly, peacefully. By the time they reached the stars, war was a distant memory. But we brought our wars with us," Amy finished. "Yes. And that's why we're going to win." In the engineering bay, Danny Chen explained the ship's weapons to a nervous ensign who had just transferred from Earth last month. The young man stared at the massive quantum missile tubes with wide eyes. "I don't understand, sir," the ensign said. "How do the missiles get through their shields?" Danny grinned. "They don't get through the shields. They ignore them completely. See, shields work by detecting incoming objects and creating a barrier. But quantum missiles don't exist in normal space until the moment they detonate. They're entangled with their targets. When we fire them, they collapse into reality inside the enemy ship." "That's impossible," the ensign whispered. "That's what the aliens think too. That's why it'll work. They've been using the same shield technology for thousands of years. They perfected it. But they stopped asking what comes next. We kept asking." Danny moved to another weapon system. "These are graviton pulse cannons. They don't fire energy or matter. They fire gravity. They create a wave of gravitational force that crumples ships like tin cans. Shields can't stop gravity because gravity isn't an attack. It's a fundamental force of the universe. The ensign looked overwhelmed. What about the singularity torpedoes? Those create tiny black holes that last for about 3 seconds, long enough to tear apart anything within 100 meters, short enough that they evaporate before becoming dangerous to us. Again, it's not something you can defend against with normal shields. And the reactive armor? That's my favorite part, Danny said proudly. The hull of this ship is covered in smart material that analyzes incoming fire and adapts in real time. First shot might damage us. Second shot hits a surface that's already reconfigured to disperse that exact type of energy. It's like armor that learns. On the bridge, Kyle Harris ran through tactical scenarios with the senior staff. He projected holographic images of the alien fleet, showing their most common formations and attack patterns. The Zarenth will lead, he explained. They always do. It's a cultural thing. Their commander has to prove dominance before fighting begins. They'll position their flagship front and center, expecting us to focus on it. The Krell will hang back initially, added Peter Grant, the intelligence officer. They wait until the enemy is engaged, then swarm from all sides. It's effective against distracted opponents. The Viridians rely entirely on their shields, Kyle continued. Their crystalline hulls are actually quite fragile without them. They're used to enemies that can't penetrate their defenses. The Thalax will activate stealth immediately, Peter said. They think their cloaking technology is undetectable. They don't know we developed quantum radar specifically to counter it. And the Noraxis will let their AI control everything, Kyle finished. Their computers calculate optimal tactics and execute them perfectly, which is great until you introduce chaos into the equation. AI can't adapt to pure randomness the way organic minds can. Amy Brooks studied the data. So our strategy is to hit them all at once? Don't let them execute their standard tactics? Exactly, Morrison said, entering the bridge. Every species out there has had thousands of years to perfect their military doctrine. They know what works, but they've fought the same civilizations over and over. They've never fought humans. He pulled up an image of ancient Earth. When we were still fighting with swords and horses, we learned something important. The best battle plan is the one your enemy doesn't expect. Sun Tzu wrote about it. Von Clausewitz wrote about it. Every human military theorist understood that warfare is about psychology as much as firepower. The aliens don't think that way, Kyle added. They calculate odds. They follow optimal strategies. They fight like it's a math problem. But war isn't math, Morrison said. It's chaos. And humans thrive in chaos. He looked at his crew. They were listening intently now, fear replaced by understanding. They see 200 ships against one and think the outcome is certain. They see their superior numbers and advanced age and think we can't possibly win. But they're making the same mistake every enemy has made when facing humans throughout history. What mistake is that, sir? Amy asked. Morrison smiled. They're underestimating us, and that's when humans are most dangerous. He walked to the captain's chair and sat down. The command felt right. He had trained for this moment his entire career. Every simulation, every war game, every tactical study had led to this. In 30 minutes, that fleet will be in position, he said. They'll offer us one more chance to surrender. They'll think they're being merciful, civilized. Then they'll expect us to fight by their rules. Ship-to-ship combat, honor, restraint. But we're not going to fight by their rules, Kyle said. No, we're going to fight like humans. Fast, brutal, overwhelming. We're going to hit them so hard they won't have time to understand what happened. And when it's over, the galaxy will know that humanity doesn't ask for permission to exist. Morrison checked the countdown timer. 28 minutes until the fleet completed its encirclement. Everyone to battle stations, he ordered. This is what we trained for. This is what Earth built this ship for. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. The crew moved with purpose, taking their positions. Amy Brooks powered up the weapon systems. Danny Chen brought the reactors to maximum output. Kyle Harris coordinated with all departments. Peter Grant monitored the approaching fleet. Morrison sat in his command chair and thought about the photograph in his quarters. He thought about his family. He thought about every human who had ever been victimized by alien raiders and pirates. He thought about Earth, waiting to see if their gamble would pay off. The timer counted down. The alien fleet moved into position. The Zarenth flagship opened its communication channel. "It's time," Morrison said quietly. The Zarenth commander's face filled every screen on the bridge. His scales were deep crimson now, showing his absolute authority. Behind him, his bridge crew worked at their stations, confident in their superiority. They had fought wars before humans even discovered fire. "Human vessel," the commander said slowly, drawing out each word for maximum effect. "You have shown courage by meeting us here. But courage alone cannot defeat 200 warships. I offer you one final chance. Surrender now and your crew will be treated with honor. Your ship will be impounded. Your species will accept its proper place in the galactic order. Refuse and we will be forced to destroy you. You have 30 seconds to respond." The channel stayed open. The Zarenth commander waited, expecting pleading or defiance or desperate negotiation. This was how it always went. The inferior force realized their position and either surrendered or made futile threats before being destroyed. On the USS Valiant, Jake Morrison used those 30 seconds differently. His fingers moved across his command console, silent and precise. He wasn't composing a response to the alien commander. He was finalizing targeting solutions for every single ship in the enemy fleet. Amy Brooks watched her weapons board light up green. 217 targets locked. Quantum missiles loaded and ready. Graviton cannons charged to maximum power. Singularity torpedoes armed. Railguns positioned. Every weapon system on the ship hummed with barely contained energy. 20 seconds, Kyle Harris said quietly, counting down the Zarenth ultimatum. Morrison glanced at his crew. They were ready. Every person on this bridge had trained for years for this exact moment. Every system on the ship had been designed for one purpose. 15 seconds. The Zarenth commander on the screen grew impatient. "Your time is running out, humans. Make your choice." 10 seconds. Morrison's hand hovered over the fire control. 5 seconds. The alien commander opened his mouth to speak again, probably to mock the humans for their silence. He never finished that sentence. "Fire everything," Morrison said. The USS Valiant became a star for 3 seconds as every weapon system fired simultaneously. The quantum missiles launched first, vanishing from normal space in a flash of exotic energy. They collapsed into reality inside the shields of 20 Zarenth capital ships, materializing directly in their reactor cores. The Zarenth flagship exploded before their commander could even register what was happening. One moment he was speaking. The next moment he and his entire crew ceased to exist, vaporized in a nuclear fireball that consumed the entire vessel. 19 more Zarenth ships suffered the same fate in the same instant. 20 massive warships, each carrying thousands of crew, simply vanished from existence. 3 seconds, Kyle called out, tracking the battle progression. The graviton pulse cannons fired in rapid sequence, 60 shots per second, each one creating a localized gravity well that bent space itself. The weapons didn't travel through space. They manipulated the fundamental structure of reality. The Viridian ships with their supposedly impenetrable shields found out too late that shields designed to stop energy and matter were useless against gravity itself. 30 crystalline, Viridian vessels crumpled like paper in the grip of a giant invisible hand. Their beautiful hulls, grown over decades in specialized facilities, shattered into billions of fragments. The Viridians inside died instantly, crushed by forces their biology had never evolved to withstand. 6 seconds. The Krell swarm reacted with impressive speed. Their bioships surged forward in their characteristic attack pattern. Thousands of small craft moving as one organism. They had overwhelmed countless enemies with this tactic over the centuries. The swarm was unstoppable once it built momentum. Ships couldn't target them all. Defense systems got overwhelmed. The Krell always won through sheer numbers. Morrison had prepared for this. Launch singularity torpedoes into the center of their formation. Amy Brooks pressed the firing control. 6 torpedoes, each containing compressed exotic matter, streaked into the heart of the Krell swarm. They detonated simultaneously. For 3 seconds, 6 micro-black holes existed in the same space as hundreds of Krell bioships. Gravity doesn't care about armor or shields or regenerating hulls. The black holes pulled everything nearby into spiraling death trajectories. Krell ships slammed into each other at impossible speeds. The swarm collapsed inward, destroying itself in a magnificent display of physics overcoming biology. 10 seconds. The Thalax made their move. 47 ships activated their stealth systems in perfect coordination. Advanced cloaking technology made them invisible to normal sensors. They disappeared from the USS Valiant's conventional displays. The Thalax commanders smiled in their water-filled command chambers. The humans couldn't see them anymore. Now they could strike from the shadows. Quantum radar is tracking all 47 Thalax vessels, Peter Grant reported calmly from his sensor station, sending targeting data to weapons now. Amy Brooks didn't hesitate. The railguns, humanity's oldest space weapons technology perfected over decades, fired magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds at relativistic speeds. Each round carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon, and each round hit a Thalax ship that thought it was safely hidden. The Thalax died without understanding how they had been detected. Their stealth technology was perfect. It bent light around their ships. It masked their energy signatures. It made them invisible to every known type of sensor in the galaxy. But quantum radar didn't look for light or energy. It looked for quantum entanglement. Every particle in the universe was entangled with every other particle. You couldn't hide from quantum physics. The Thalax ships might as well have been painted bright red for how clearly they showed up on the Valiant's quantum sensors. 15 seconds. The Noraxis Collective's AI-controlled drones calculated their response with machine precision. They analyzed the battle data. They computed optimal attack vectors. They coordinated their movements with mathematical perfection. 300 drones moved as one, executing a brilliant flanking maneuver that should have caught the USS Valiant in a devastating crossfire. Activate Electronic Warfare Suite, Morrison ordered. Full chaos protocols. Kyle Harris engaged systems that no other civilization had ever developed. The USS Valiant began broadcasting thousands of false signals. Fake ships appeared on the Noraxis sensors. Real ships disappeared. Energy signatures changed randomly. Gravitational readings contradicted visual data. Quantum states fluctuated impossibly. The Noraxis AI tried to process the contradictory information. It attempted to calculate which data was real. It looked for patterns in the chaos. But there were no patterns. The humans were generating pure randomness. The AI couldn't comprehend it. How could it plan tactics against sensor data that contradicted itself? How could it execute optimal maneuvers when the very laws of physics seemed to be changing randomly? The drones froze. Their AI systems crashed. Overwhelmed by paradoxes and impossibilities, they hung motionless in space, dead machines piloted by crashed computers. Amy Brooks targeted each frozen drone and methodically destroyed them. 22 seconds. The remaining alien ships, those that had survived the initial onslaught, attempted to retreat. Commanders across the coalition fleet gave orders to fall back, to regroup, to escape this nightmare. They abandoned their formations. They abandoned their wounded. They abandoned their pride. They just wanted to survive. The USS Valiant's engines, built using principles of quantum field manipulation that the aliens had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities, propelled the ship forward at speeds that shouldn't be possible for something so large. Morrison pursued the fleeing ships with methodical efficiency. "No mercy," he said quietly. "They came here to teach us a lesson. Let's teach them one instead." The railguns continued firing. The graviton cannons found their marks. The quantum missiles materialized inside enemy reactors. One by one, the retreating ships died. 30 seconds. The space where 217 warships had floated moments ago now contained only debris and expanding clouds of gas. The USS Valiant drifted through the graveyard it had created. Its shields barely scratched, its hull undamaged, its weapons still loaded and ready. Complete silence filled the bridge. Morrison's crew stared at their displays, unable to fully process what they had just accomplished. 30 seconds. 217 enemy vessels destroyed. 0 human casualties. Amy Brooks spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. "Sir, I'm reading 0 active enemy contacts. The fleet is... It's gone." "All of them." Morrison nodded slowly. He felt no triumph, no joy. Just a cold certainty that the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council chambers," he ordered. "I know they were monitoring this battle." The screen flickered. Instead of one face, hundreds appeared. Every ambassador, every representative, every species that had watched confidently as their fleet surrounded one human ship. They stared in absolute horror. Morrison looked at them all. He thought carefully about his next words. These words would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for centuries to come. Humanity accepts your surrender, he said simply. Then he closed the channel and sat back in his chair, wondering what he had just unleashed upon the galaxy. News of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed, carried by automated beacons and quantum relays. Within hours, every civilization knew what had happened in the neutral zone. Within days, the galaxy had changed forever. On the Zarenth homeworld, Admiral Vexisthar watched the battle footage for the 100th time. He was one of only 3 Zarenth commanders who had survived, and only because his ship had been positioned at the far edge of the formation. He had escaped during those final chaotic seconds. Now he sat alone in his quarters, replaying those 30 seconds over and over. His species had ruled this sector for 8,000 years. They had fought wars against every major power and won. Their military doctrine was studied across hundreds of worlds, and one human ship had destroyed 20 of their capital vessels in 3 seconds. Vexthar paused the footage at the moment of the quantum missile detonations. He studied the data carefully. The missiles hadn't penetrated the shields. They had ignored them completely. No warning, no time to react. They simply appeared inside the ships and detonated. Impossible, he whispered. But the evidence was right in front of him. He advanced the footage, watching the Viridian ships crumple under gravitational forces. He watched the Krell swarm destroy itself. He watched the Thalax die while cloaked. He watched the Neuraxis drones freeze in place. The humans hadn't just won. They had demonstrated technology that shouldn't exist. Weapons that the galaxy's greatest minds had dismissed as theoretical curiosities. Tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. But what terrified Vexthar most was the realization that the humans hadn't needed any of it. They could have won with conventional weapons. The quantum missiles and graviton cannons were just the most efficient method. The humans had studied their enemies, predicted their tactics, and prepared specific counters to each species. They had turned war into a science. No, worse than that. They had turned war into an art form. On Earth, Jake Morrison stood in front of the United Government Council. President Linda Shaw sat at the center table, flanked by military advisors and diplomatic officials. They all looked at him with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Admiral Morrison, the president said. They had promoted him immediately after the battle. You've accomplished something remarkable. You've proven that humanity can defend itself against any threat. The question now is, what do we do with that power? Morrison had been thinking about this question since the battle ended. We show restraint, Madam President. We proved we can fight. Now we need to prove we can lead. Some members of this council disagree, said General Paul Stevens, head of Earth's military forces. They believe we should press our advantage. Expand our territory while the other civilizations are afraid of us. That would be a mistake, Morrison replied firmly. Fear is a poor foundation for peace. If we act like conquerors, we'll unite the galaxy against us. We might win the next battle too, but eventually we'll lose through sheer attrition. President Shaw nodded. What do you recommend? We reach out to smaller civilizations, the ones who've been oppressed by the major powers. We offer protection and alliance. We show the galaxy that humans can be trusted partners, not just feared warriors. And if the major powers try to unite against us again? Stevens asked. Morrison met his gaze. Then we remind them what happened the first time. But we don't seek that confrontation. We make it clear that we'll destroy anyone who threatens us, but we won't threaten anyone first. The council debated for hours. Morrison stood patiently answering questions, explaining his strategy. Finally, President Shaw called for a vote. Those in favor of Admiral Morrison's diplomatic approach? She asked. A majority of hands rose. Then it settled. Admiral Morrison, you'll lead our diplomatic missions. Commander Brooks will assist you. Commander Harris will begin training our next generation of officers. Morrison saluted. Thank you, Madam President. 3 months passed. The USS Valiant became a symbol throughout the galaxy. Some civilizations saw it as a protector. Others saw it as a threat. Everyone saw it as a warning of what humanity could do when pushed. Amy Brooks, now Captain Brooks of her own ship, the USS Defiant, escorted a diplomatic convoy to the Helix Nebula. Smaller civilizations there had requested Earth's protection against pirates and raiders. The major powers had never bothered defending them. It's strange, Amy said to her first officer as they traveled. 3 months ago we were nobody. Now everyone either loves us or hates us. Do you think we did the right thing? her first officer asked. Destroying that fleet so completely? Amy thought about the question carefully. I think we did the only thing we could do. They gave us a choice between surrender and war. We chose to show them that war with humanity is unwinnable. If we had fought a long battle and barely won, they would have tried again. By winning instantly, we made them afraid, and sometimes fear prevents more violence than diplomacy can. Back on Earth, Kyle Harris stood in front of his first class at the new military academy. 50 cadets from Earth plus 20 exchange students from allied alien civilizations looked at him expectantly. Welcome to Advanced Tactical Studies, Kyle said. This course will teach you how to think like a human warrior. Not because humans are inherently better at war, but because humans have practiced war for our entire existence. Every species in this room comes from a world with challenges. But Earth is different. Earth tried to kill us from day one, and we survived by becoming very good at fighting back. One of the alien students, a young Valorian with blue skin, raised her hand. Commander Harris, is it true that humans have fought wars almost continuously for thousands of years? Yes, Kyle answered honestly. We fought wars over resources, religion, territory, pride, and sometimes just because we forgot why we started fighting. It's not something we're proud of, but it taught us lessons that most species learn too late. We learned that the civilization that prepares for war, even during peace, is the civilization that survives. Isn't that a sad way to live? Another student asked. Kyle nodded. Yes, it is. That's why we're teaching this course. So the next generation understands how to defend themselves without becoming conquerors. Power without wisdom is dangerous, but wisdom without power is vulnerable. You need both, the class continued. Kyle taught them about Earth's military history, from ancient battles with swords to modern warfare in space. He showed them how humans adapted to every challenge, how they innovated when outmatched, how they turned disadvantages into advantages. On the Galactic Council Station, now orbiting Earth instead of its original location, ambassadors from hundreds of worlds gathered for the first session under the new treaty. The council chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. The Zarenth ambassador was Vexthar now. The previous ambassador had committed ritual suicide after the battle, unable to bear the shame. Vexthar stood at the podium where his predecessor had once demanded humanity's surrender. I address this council with humility, he said, his scales pale blue instead of crimson. My species made a catastrophic error. We judged humanity by our own standards. We assumed they thought like us, fought like us, feared like us. We were wrong. He activated a holographic display showing the 30-second battle. The humans didn't just defeat us. They demonstrated that our entire understanding of modern warfare was obsolete. While we perfected our tactics over millennia, they kept innovating. While we became comfortable, they stayed sharp. While we forgot what real war looks like, they remembered. Murmurs spread through the council, some of agreement, some of anger, some of fear. The question before us now is simple, Vexthar continued. Do we accept humanity as equals and learn from them? Or do we cling to our pride and face extinction? Because make no mistake, if we choose pride, humanity will defend itself. And we've all seen what that looks like. President Shaw stood to address the council. Earth doesn't want to conquer anyone. We want to explore, trade, and grow. But we will never again be victims. We will never again watch our ships destroyed by pirates while the galaxy looks away. We will protect ourselves and anyone who allies with us. That's not a threat. That's a promise. A Valorian ambassador stood up. Her species had suffered under Zarenth control for centuries. My people wish to join the human alliance. We offer our friendship and our resources in exchange for protection and fair treatment. As do mine, said a Tellurian representative. And mine, added a Corvani diplomat. One by one, smaller civilizations stood to join with humanity. The major powers watched in growing alarm as their former subjects chose new allies. Morrison observed from the human delegation section. This was the moment he had hoped for. Humanity wasn't conquering the galaxy. The galaxy was choosing to join them, but in the back of his mind a warning nagged at him. They had humiliated the major powers. They had shattered the old order. That kind of change created enemies who would nurse grudges for generations. And then his communicator buzzed with an urgent message from deep space sensors. Unknown contacts approaching. Large fleet. Technology more advanced than anything in the database. Morrison's blood ran cold. They had defeated the galaxy's known powers. But what about the unknown ones? The emergency meeting convened within hours. Jake Morrison stood at the center of the council chamber, now surrounded by both human and alien representatives. The holographic display showed the approaching fleet, 15 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They appeared 3 days ago at the edge of charted space, Peter Grant explained, his voice tense. They've been moving steadily toward this sector. No response to our hails, no aggressive actions. They're just coming. Admiral Vexthar studied the data with his experienced eye. I've never seen ships like these. That hull configuration, the energy signatures, this is technology far beyond what the Galactic Council possesses. President Shaw looked at Morrison. Admiral, can we defeat them? Morrison took a long moment to answer. I don't know, Madam President. Against the Council fleet, we knew their capabilities. We understood their tactics. These ships are complete unknowns, and that's when battles become unpredictable. Could we use the same weapons? Asked General Stevens via communication link from Earth. The quantum missiles, the graviton cannons? Maybe, Morrison replied. But what if they have defenses we haven't seen before? What if they've been watching us, learning from how we defeated the Council fleet? We'd be walking into a fight blind. Amy Brooks, attending via holographic link from the USS Defiant, spoke up. Sir, with respect, we've prepared for the unknown before. We can do it again. Humanity didn't win last time by having all the answers. We won by being willing to take risks. Risks are different than suicide, Morrison countered. I'm not afraid to fight, but I'm also not eager to start a war with an enemy we don't understand. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for a preemptive strike. Others urged caution. The council remained divided until an aide rushed in with urgent news. They're broadcasting a message. It's in our languages, all of them. The chamber fell silent as the message played. A figure appeared on the display. Humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin seemed to shift between states of matter, solid and liquid and something in between. Its eyes held ancient intelligence. I am Keeper Valen of the Eternal Compact. We have watched this region of space for 10,000 years. We allowed the Galactic Council to govern as a test for younger civilizations. Some failed through weakness. Others through excessive aggression. All were found wanting. Morrison felt cold dread creeping up his spine. Then came humanity. The Keeper continued. You were attacked by overwhelming force. Your response was efficient, devastating, complete. You demonstrated technological advancement we did not anticipate. You also demonstrated a capacity for violence that concerns us. The hologram paused, and Morrison realized the entire galaxy was probably watching this message. We orchestrated the Council's attack on humanity. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Vexthar's scales flashed with shock and rage. They manipulated us, used us as a test. We needed to see how humanity would respond to existential threat, Keeper Valen explained without emotion. Most species either submit or fight to exhaustion. Humanity annihilated its enemies in 30 seconds. This outcome was unexpected. It requires evaluation. Evaluation, Morrison repeated bitterly. You're telling me that 200 ships full of living beings died because you wanted to test us? Yes. We must determine if humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. We offer 3 options. First, submit to our authority and accept limits on your expansion. Second, face isolation, quarantined to your current territories for the next 1,000 years. Third, attempt to defeat us and face the consequences. The hologram faded. Silence filled the chamber. President Shaw turned to Morrison. Admiral, I'm authorizing you to command our full fleet. If it comes to war— Wait, Morrison interrupted. This is exactly what they expect. They're giving us 3 bad choices and waiting to see which one we take. But what if there's a 4th option they haven't considered? What option? Vexthar asked. Morrison thought quickly, pieces falling into place in his mind. They said most species either submit or fight. What if we do neither? What if we propose something they haven't seen before? Like what? Amy Brooks asked from her holographic link. Partnership, not as their subjects or their enemies. As their equals. The chamber erupted in debate. Some called it foolish. Others called it brilliant. Morrison waited for the noise to die down. Look at what we know, he said. They're powerful enough to manipulate the entire Galactic Council. They've been watching for 10,000 years. They could have destroyed us already if that was their goal. They're testing us, yes, but they're also communicating. Why communicate with something you plan to destroy? Kyle Harris, attending the meeting remotely from the military academy, spoke up. The Admiral is right. They're looking for something specific. They said every other species either submitted through fear or fought through arrogance. What if they're looking for a species that can see a third path? Morrison nodded. Exactly. They test civilizations to find ones worthy of joining them. But the test isn't about military strength. It's about wisdom. That's a big assumption, General Stevens argued. If you're wrong, we've wasted time we could have used to prepare our defenses. If I'm wrong, we fight and probably lose, Morrison admitted. But if I'm right, we gain an ally far more powerful than the Galactic Council ever was, and we avoid a war that would kill billions. President Shaw studied Morrison's face. She had trusted his judgment before. It had paid off. She made her decision. Do it. Contact the Eternal Compact. Make your proposal. Morrison requested a direct channel to the approaching fleet. To his surprise, it was granted immediately. Keeper Valen's face appeared on the screen. Keeper Valen, Morrison began, I reject all three of your options. Instead, I propose a fourth. Humanity and the Eternal Compact as partners. Not master and servant, not enemies. Partners working together for the good of the galaxy. The Keeper's expression didn't change, but something flickered in its ancient eyes. Explain. You've been watching civilizations for 10,000 years. You've seen them fail through weakness or arrogance, but you keep testing. That means you're looking for something. You're looking for equals, not subjects. An interesting theory, the Keeper replied. What makes you believe humanity qualifies as an equal? Because we just proved we can defeat any military threat in this galaxy. But more importantly, we're proving right now that we know when not to fight. Wisdom isn't about winning every battle. It's about knowing which battles matter. Keeper Valen was silent for a long moment. Morrison held his breath. In 10,000 years, the Keeper finally said, you are the first species to propose cooperation instead of submission or conflict. The first to recognize that this was a test of wisdom rather than strength. The first to see beyond the obvious choices. Morrison allowed himself a small breath of relief. The Eternal Compact accepts your proposal, Keeper Valen continued. Humanity will be recognized as a sovereign civilization with full rights to expansion and self-governance. The manipulated attack by the Council fleet will be acknowledged. Reparations will be paid, and humanity will be invited to join the Compact as junior partners. Junior partners? General Stevens objected. After everything we've accomplished? You have accomplished much in a short time, the Keeper agreed. But the Compact has existed for millions of years. You have much to learn. This is not an insult. It is recognition that growth requires humility as well as strength. Morrison considered this. Acceptable. But we maintain full autonomy over our own affairs. Agreed. The channel closed. The chamber erupted in celebration and relief. They had avoided war. They had gained powerful allies. They had proven that humanity deserved a place among the stars. But Morrison didn't join the celebration. He stepped out onto the observation deck, looking at Earth hanging in space below. Amy Brooks found him there an hour later. We did it, sir, she said quietly. We saved humanity without firing a shot. This time, Morrison replied. But there will be other threats. Other tests. The galaxy is vast, and we've barely begun to explore it. Do you regret what we did? The battle? Morrison thought about the 200 ships they had destroyed in 30 seconds. Thousands of lives ended in an instant, all for a test they hadn't known they were taking. I regret that it was necessary, he said. But I don't regret protecting humanity. Those ships came to destroy us. We did what we had to do. And now we prove that we can be more than warriors. We show the galaxy that humans can build as well as destroy. We explore. We learn, we grow. We become worthy of the power we've claimed. 5 years passed. The galaxy settled into a new order. Humanity controlled a dozen star systems and had alliances with 40 more. The USS Valiant had been retired to a museum, replaced by a new generation of ships. Captain Amy Brooks commanded an exploratory vessel pushing into uncharted space. Commander Kyle Harris ran the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison served on the Compact's council, representing humanity's interests. On the anniversary of the 32nd battle, Morrison returned to Earth. He stood in the museum, looking at the USS Valiant suspended in its display chamber. Young cadets toured the ship, listening to guides explain how this single vessel had changed galactic history. A young ensign approached Morrison, recognizing him despite his